Good morning and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you live and exclusive on Spectrum Television. Today is quite an exciting day. We'll look at the exciting stories in the world of sports. A lot of stories from tennis to basketball. It's still the third season in basketball. A lot of superstars looking to leave their franchises to another one to see what they can win for themselves. It ends on Thursday, so definitely going to be a lot of actions and movement just before Thursday. We'll also touch the football scene where last night we had Arsenal defeating Chelsea once again to book their ticket to Wembley, where they would face the winner of Manchester City or Newcastle, which will be played today. Look at all these stories extensively. Remember, you can follow us on all social media handles. Go to Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok as well. You can hit the follow button on Spectrum TV Live. We'll take a quick breather. When we're back, Sport Wrap Up in full. Now we'll start with tennis, where Arthur Fields made a triumphant return to the ATP Tour on Tuesday at the Open Octane in Montpellier, where he overcame Valentin Roya 7-6, 6-7, 6-2. And competing for the first time since August, the dynamic Frenchman saved one set point in the first set and produced a thrilling third set display to rest the roof at the ATP 250 event. Fields, who has been battling a back injury since the end of May, had last tested victory in July in Toronto, and the 21-year-old who reached the semi-finals in Montpellier in 2023 is now earned 50 tour-level hard-court wins. He will continue his comeback against Hugo Blanchett, who defeated double star Andre Vavasori 6-4, 6-3. Still in tennis, but the WTA division, where Hailey Baptiste had to make a swift reset in order to come away with a 7-6, 6-love, 6-3 upset of number 4 seed Emma Navarro in the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open quarterfinals, the fourth top 20 win of her career. The American wild card had squeaked through an edgy first set by finding her best touch right at its close, but that form deserted her over the course of a dismal second set in which she won just 9 points. By the end of it, she closed out the win with ruthless efficiency, slamming her 7th ace and then an emphatic smash on their last 2 points. The result was a milestone one for Baptiste, who advances to her first WTA 500 quarterfinal and first tour-level quarterfinal since Auckland last year. Last month, she reached the third round of the Australian Open, where she stretched Coco Gauff to 3 sets. Baptiste also snapped a 3-match losing streak against Navarro. She'd won their first encounter all the way back in qualifying for the Baton Rouge ITF W25 in 2018, but had not won a set in 3 subsequent meetings. This was the first time the two compatriots had played outside the United States. Now, two other stories where Nigeria has been confirmed among the nations that will compete in the men's 3x3 basketball event at the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, which will be the country's first appearance in the fast-growing format at the Games. The confirmation was made on Tuesday by Commonwealth Sport, which released the list of qualified nations for the basketball competition scheduled to hold at the Scottish Events Campus from July 24 to 29, 2026. The announcement represents a significant milestone for Nigeria, which did not feature when the discipline met its Commonwealth Games debut at Birmingham 2022. 3x3 basketball will be included in the Games program for the second time, following its strong reception in Birmingham 4 years ago. The Glasgow edition will also see the competition expanded from 8 teams per gender to 12, reflecting the rapid growth and rising global appeal of the half-court format. Nigeria will line up in the men's competition against Australia, the Cayman Islands, Fiji, Guyana, Jamaica, Kenya, Malaysia, New Zealand, Scotland and Singapore, with one additional European qualification slot yet to be decided. Now, still in basketball, James Harden is set to join the Cleveland Cavaliers from the Los Angeles Clippers, with Darius Garland moving in the opposite direction after the sides agreed a trade. Harden, who is 36, is an 11-time NBA All-Star and regarded as one of the greatest guards in history, but he has never won an NBA title. Although the deal is yet to be confirmed by the NBA, Harden said the opportunity to win a first championship was key in deciding the move. The Cavaliers are 5th in the Eastern Conference in their pursuit of a playoff spot, while the Clippers are 9th in the West. Harden has helped the Clippers climb the table after a dismal 6-win and 21-loss start this season, but sat out at Sunday's defeat by the Philadelphia 76ers while talks with the Cavaliers progressed. Harden, who won the NBA Most Valuable Player Award in 2018 while with the Houston Rockets, has denied speculations that he requested a trade from the Clippers. The Clippers will host the Cavaliers on Wednesday, but Harden and Garland must pass medicals before the trade is confirmed. Now to football, where Arsenal took a step closer to winning their first major silverware since 2020 as they beat Chelsea to reach the Carabao Cup final. Leading 3-2 from the first leg, the Gunners had to wait until the 97th minute to seal their progress on a tense evening at the Emirates Stadium. Substitute Kai Havertz scored the only goal of the night deep into injury time, rounding goalkeeper Robert Sanchez before slotting home. Mikel Arteta's men, who were top of the Premier League and still involved in 3 cup competitions, will face either Manchester City or Newcastle in the final at Wembley next month. The hosts started the game in the ascendancy, but with Chelsea lining up with the back 5, chances were limited in the first half. Liam Rosinio brought on attackers Estevio and Cole Palmer on the hour mark in an attempt to spark his team into life, but Arsenal were able to keep them at bay. That led the platform for Havertz, who has only recently returned from injury, to seal Arsenal's aggregate victory with a cool finish in the closing seconds. The Gunners, whose last major silverware came by virtue of an FA Cup victory over Chelsea, last reached the League Cup final in 2018 and will be looking for something in 2026. That's all we have for you on Sport Wrap Up. We'll take a quick break, and when we're back, Sports Central in full.
Hello, good morning to you and welcome to Sports Central, brought to you via Spectrum Television. With a whole lot to talk about this particular weighty Wednesday right here in this studio as regards sporting activities from home, where it has to do with Nigerian contingent at the table tennis scene to, of course, the Commonwealth game expected much later this year. We'll also be taking a look at some top-level competitions happening in the world of tennis, especially after the closure of the first Grand Slam, which is the Australian Open in the year 2026. We'll also be looking at the world of football with a whole lot right there. Yesterday we saw the Carabao Cup second leg semi-final clash between Arsenal and Chelsea. It was a London derby affair, but one team had to progress to the finals of the English Carabao Cup. Today would be Manchester City against Newcastle, with City, of course, having a commanding 2-0 lead in the first leg of this encounter, and it might just be another game to look forward to. We'll talk about all of these on the show and much more as we dissect, and you're here to discuss everything in the exciting world of sports. I am Utobe David, and I'm super delighted to return this morning. Wamfon Bongitina, you earlier saw on your screens. Together, we'll be doing justice to what's happening in the exciting world of sports. Wamfon, good morning to you. Delighted to do this to you once again today.
Excited to be back here too. Lots of features to look out for. After the US Open, lots of superstars maybe outside the top 10, outside the top 20, starting to look for wins before the next major of the year. Talking about the likes of Arthur Fields, finally got his first win of the season. So lots of stories to look out for today.
Well, let's quickly begin the conversation this morning from all the stories away from football. It has to do with the world of tennis, where the Open Occitanie is actually up and running in Montpellier. Arthur Fields, one of the young stars right here, winning his first match since August in Montpellier. Well, Arthur Fields made a triumphant return to the ATP Tour just yesterday, where he overcame Valentin Royer 7-6, 6-7, 6-2 right there in that particular game. Well, a good start for the man right here. I didn't hear his name during the Australian Open.
Yeah,
wasn't there. Yeah, should be his first competition of the year 2026.
Yeah, I think it's just about superstars trying to pick their competitions. He knows if he goes to the Australian
21
Open,
years.
It's good. It might be very difficult for him. He's not won a game since August last year. That's due to injuries and all of that. Coming in. So when you're a player who's just trying to find your fitness, you don't just go straight into the deep end. You have to start from somewhere where the competition is not really at its highest. So I think the Open Occitanie is the best ground for Arthur Fields, and let's see how he can try to revitalize his career and put it back on track.
Well, of course, we're looking forward to what Arthur Fields can actually do. Away from that, Hobbit, got past Botic van der Zalzop to reach the second round of this particular competition. I'm talking about Hugo Humbert. But the man successfully advanced to the second round of the Open Tour de France in Montpellier by defeating Botic van der Zalzop. It was a straight set win for the man just yesterday. Other players also played. A qualifier, Martin Dam, scored and, of course, upset in that win against Herbert Hookers in that particular game. Well, Herbert Hookers, one of the most iconic name, particularly in the world of tennis, but a qualifier upsetted Herbert Hookers right here. A top-level competition that is not up to, of course, 1,000. Well, usually, most times, you got to see, youngsters stepping up to the party. And Herbert Hookers being quite, of course, a name on the other end who was actually beaten yesterday.
Yeah. I think it's quite sad for Hobedu because you'd expect him. He's the seventh seeded in this competition.
Yeah.
Well, the boy Martin Dam is just a qualifier, American qualifier teenager, and you would expect Hobedu to probably use him as a stepping stone, but wasn't to be the same as the boy was able to get the better of Hobedu because it shows that just like we were talking about yesterday, lots of teenagers are coming through the ranks. They're having young stars trying to pick up the pieces and see how they can compete with the top teams. Yesterday, Hobedu had to fall to one of them, and it's quite exciting to see this young star starting to get a steady race. It's just about keeping the momentum now, because what happens after this, your next match, you have to continue, because now fans and people who are watching will be expecting more from you. You cannot just defeat Hobbit Hookers and the next match you get to lose. So you have to maintain a same level of composure, momentum, and all of that. So I'm looking forward to hearing more of the name Martin Dam.
Well, of course, we're looking forward to more competitions coming for the man. Well, away from that now, Torsten, in the Abu Dhabi Open showed up top form to defeat Waltex in the Abu Dhabi second round competition we saw just yesterday. The lady, a top seed in this, a top 3 seed in this particular competition, ensured that she got the better of a Swiss qualifier in straight set. It was Simeona Waltert in that particular game. It is actually, a tall level competition, not too top, particularly in this one, but a good win for the lady to, of course, start with at this particular point in time. But away from that now, Kessler was also another name on the cards. The lady turned on the aggression to beat Fernandez in Abu Dhabi's second round, and this was quite, of course, a statement win against Fernandez in this particular one. Well, many expected it to be quite a game that maybe Fernandez would have done better, but Kessler, turned up to the party and ensured she was able to get the better of Fernandez in the second round of the competition. Leila Fernandez is the top name. Being beaten also shows the strength of some of the youngsters right here.
Definitely. Leila Fernandez is 20 years of age, so still very young. Yes, she's done quite well for herself in the last 2 seasons in the WTA Tour, but still some would say she still lacks a certain level of experience. So I'll not really expect her to be winning all of the games. She's still learning the ropes. I would cut her some slack, but it's the WTA 500 event, and you're looking at superstars trying to see how they can, get something handy for themselves. And Kessler, she progressed in this one. Let's see how far she can go.
Well, other games are just, of course, do a brief rundown of it. Former finalist Samsonova, also saw off Chen in the Abu Dhabi quarters to advance to the next stage of the competition. But let's quickly head straight now into the world of basketball and take a look at what has been happening in recent times. Well, if you could recall, yesterday we talked about an impending trade deal for the man James Harden, but it has been confirmed. James Harden now have joined the Cleveland Cavaliers in pursuit of a first title. Can he actually do that? Yesterday I made mention of leaving the 76ers to join the LA Clippers. So now another journey to the Cavs. The Cleveland Cavaliers side were arguably was the second best side in the NBA regular season. That was last season, just second to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who went on to win the NBA title. But now, what does this mean for the man James Harden in that particular trade deal that saw Darius Garland moving the opposite direction in this particular deal? The man is 36 years of age, an 11-time NBA All-Star, and regarded as one of the greatest guards in the history of the NBA. But he has never in his history won the NBA title. Yes, the 76ers won the NBA title, but he wasn't part of it. Went to the Clippers rather during his time. The Clippers couldn't win any NBA title, and now with the Cavs, can he win his first NBA title? Well, for the big question rather, the Cleveland Cavaliers have got some superstars that can also, step up to the party. Now with the addition of James Harden, can they actually, do the damage and maybe win their first for the man himself? Talk about James Harden, win his first NBA title.
Well, I think it's just about ambitions now for James Harden. He's talked about it yesterday in an interview. I watched the interview. He was just speaking about he wants to win. It's not just about leaving, the Clippers now. He's getting closer to that age where soon it might just be all over for him. And he's never won a title. The way he spoke about it was so emotional. He just wants to get a hand on one of those NBA rings. So I'm looking at James Harden and I'm asking myself, can he do that? Probably last season, if he went to the Cavaliers, would have thought, oh, it's going to be easy. But now the Cavaliers Cavaliers are 5th in the Eastern Conference. Some would say not really the best of the sides there, and they've dropped their form. We saw them last season, so it's going to be very difficult for them. But James Harden coming in is, you know, an added advantage for the, you know, Cleveland Cavaliers now, because they are over reliant on Donovan Mitchell. They're starting to win because we're not really seeing lots of performances from the other you know, players there. So having someone like James Harden who can score bulk of the points for you as well, I think it's going to help the Cavaliers. But winning a title this season, I think it's going to be difficult for James Harden, but definitely going to be better than playing for the Clippers, who are 9th in the Western Conference. So it's quite good for him. He said he did not do that move. He did not ask for the move. He did not request for it. It was just a case of the Clippers now accessing the options and seeing it's going to be better for us if we can trade, because now they've got Darius Garland from the Cleveland Cavaliers. They've also got, I think, 2 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
So I think that's good for, you know, the Clippers. They've got something to look at for in the future, because draft pick is always going to be very important for them. So let's see what happens. But for James Harden, I wish him the very best of luck.
Well, of course, he wasn't just the only man who, yes, went to another franchise from his current franchise. Yes, the Bulls, you know, traded Nikola Vucevic to the Celtics, and, of course, got another player. Talk about Anthony Simons in return of that particular deal as well. So we're looking forward to what all of these can actually mean, especially now for the Celtics getting Nikola Vucevic in return of getting another player the opposite direction. Won't dwell much on that particular deal, but let's quickly head straight and look at conversations surrounding NBA games that happened in the early hours of today. The Celtics, that's the Boston Celtics, defeated the Dallas Mavericks 110 points to 100 points. That, of course, actually was a statement win. Yes, the Celtics beating the Mavs 110 points to 100 points. Away from that now, these Oklahoma City Thunder rolled to a 1-8 win to 92 win over the Magic. And it was quite a win for the side. But let's with, you know, the Boston Celtics in this particular game fun with the side. Yeah, I could recall at some point you talked about some level of inconsistency for the Celtics, but somehow, courtesy of Jaylen Brown having 33 points, 11 rebounds, it was enough to get the better of the Dallas Mavericks in this one. And a good win. Can it actually up their mojo and momentum ahead of other matches?
Well, the Mavericks are not the best of sides themselves.
Yeah, they've actually struggled too.
They've got Cooper Flag scoring bulk of their points.
A youngster, as a matter of fact.
A teenager. So when you see a teenager being your best player, you definitely know you're not good. And this one thing for certain, I can tell that Cooper Flag will not last so long at the Dallas Mavericks, because other teams will come swooping in at a point in time, because the Mavericks have been so poor. Anytime they win, you know it's going to be Cooper Flag. Anytime they lose, it's still Cooper Flag with the bulk of the points. So the Celtics, I'm just worried for them, because they've not been so consistent this season. They've won a lot. They've also lost a lot. So it's not about being consistent. So winning this one might just be that catalyst for them. You never can tell. Maybe they go on a winning streak now, or maybe they extend their winning streak to 7 or thereabout. Well, let's hope for the best for the Celtics. They've still got a long way to go this season.
A long way to go for the Celtics. A big question right there. How long and how far can they actually move with their respective games, and of course getting the wins on a consistent basis? Well, away from that, the Pistons you know, rolled to a 1-4 to 1-1 win over the Nuggets, while the Utah Jazz defeated the Indiana Pacers 131 to 122 with 7 players. How did that happen?
They had just 7 players available.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Getting the better of the Pacers, a very good side.
Yeah. Pacers have not been so good this season.
Well, the Jazz have been also poor.
But they've been better than the Pacers.
Really?
Yeah, yes, they've been better than the Pacers this particular season.
Well,
not too much, but
when you actually have a Jazz side better than your team, it means there is problem, because one would actually look at the NBA, look at the Utah Jazz, look at, and there's another team that's actually escaped my memory, the Washington Wizards. Those are usually very bad teams. And then maybe you talk about the Brooklyn Nets. But when you have one of the poorest teams in the NBA better than your team, that means there is a problem somewhere.
Yeah, the Utah Jazz, I think, bulk of the problems, they're a very small franchise. You know? The city of Utah is not that big, first of all, and there's not a lot of money. When we want to talk about the richest franchises, the Utah Jazz at the bottom of them, so they don't really have what I call it squad depth. That's a football term, but yes, they don't have squad depth. So both of their players have gotten injured, so they had only 7 players fit for this particular game. You know, the NBA, you have to pull players out, pull players in. So they used only 7 players in this particular game, and they were still able to defeat the Indiana Pacers. Quite sad for the Pacers. Finalists last season, And here they are being beaten by the Utah. Quite sad.
Interesting times. We're looking forward to what happens now for the Pacers. But just quickly, the Knicks, won their 7 straight with ease. A 1-3-2 win over the Washington Wizards. Yeah, I talked about them being one of the poor sides. They had 101 points in this game. The Knicks were able to get the win, and it has been their 7th straight victory. The Atlanta Hawks spoiled the Miami's 2006 title celebration with 127 points to 115 points victory, while the Milwaukee Bucks snapped 5-game skid with 1-3-1 win over the Bulls, who ended the game with 115 points. Well, from yesterday, I could recall we were talking about the Bucks in the light of Giannis Antetokounmpo and some major talking points of potential moving away from the Bucks side to another franchise. But here they are, after losing 4 consecutive games. They've finally gotten a win, or 5 consecutive games rather. They've finally gotten a win.
I would say it's a good thing for them, but doesn't mean Giannis would stay put. Thursday is just around the corner, so I'm very excited to see if Giannis finally makes that move away from the Milwaukee Bucks. He's stayed with them 16 years now. That's quite a long time. He's saying, I have to leave, I want to leave. It's not about breaking away from the club on a bad basis. I just want to leave. I think it's that time to step away from the Bucks. Yesterday he didn't play, still injured. So the Bucks I think they've gotten used to life without Giannis already. It's just about trading him, getting another player in this season to help them to just stop the flow, because they've been very, very poor this season. For the Bucks, maybe I don't see them making it to the playoffs, because in their conference they are way below the playing spot, not even playoff. They're way below the playing spot, so it's going to be difficult for them. But a good win for them. Let's see how they go from there.
Well, of course, let's also look at other conversations now away from the world of basketball, where we hear that Commonwealth have confirmed Nigeria for a basketball event has been a major conversation. Well, not, of course, the usual numbers in the world of basketball that we have actually seen over time, but we hear that Nigeria will make its 3x3 basketball debut at the Glasgow 2026 Commonwealth Games, competing in the men's event for the first time in the format's history. That's what it is at the moment. We're looking forward to see what happens in the 3x3 basketball event in Glasgow 2026. The competition is slated to go down in no distant time from the 24th day of July 2026 to the 29th day of July is the big conversation. But just before we bounce, Nigeria table tennis faced what many would term some drop, in terms of the latest rankings that have been released. Yeah, the likes of iconic figure of Nigeria, Ronald Quadri, has slipped from his long-held position as Africa's highest-ranked player in the latest International Table Tennis Federation World Rankings. But the man dropped just 1 place globally from number 34 with 875 points, allowing Egypt's Omar Assar reclaim the continental #1 position after climbing to number 33 with 976 points. Yes, that's what it is. Ronald Quadri was initially number 33. Now he's dropped to number 34. And of course, Omar Assar have actually climbed to number 33. What this means is that Omar Assar is now Africa's #1. Yes, on the continent of Africa, while Ronald Quadri is number 2. That's just what it is. Just a few change between the ranking points. But then it is actually a long stretch of, a 2026 season where many ITTF competition will come alive. And Ronald Quadri, many would say, would also have a time rather to get back to being Africa's #1.
Well, I think it was coming. Last year we were talking about Ronald Quadri
missing some competitions.
Yeah, crashing out of tournament at the early stages of it as well. So it was definitely going to come. So I was expecting it, but let's hope that this year can be better. The first competition he participated in, he was knocked out in the first round yet again in 2026. I think that was in January. So we expect in 2026 to be better for Ronald Quadri, because he's Nigeria's flagship player. So we'd expect more from him to keep the flag of the nation quite high there. 34 is not too bad, but let's hope he can do better for Nigeria.
He can do better for Nigeria, a big, of course, statement rather. But we hit the brakes right here. When we return, we'll be talking football stories with conversations surrounding the English Carabao Cup we saw yesterday. Do stay with us. We'll return after this short break. Welcome back. It is still Sports Central right here, but let's quickly head straight now to the world of football and look at football activities and conversations surrounding them. We start off with the Falconet of Nigeria ahead of their preparation for the Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifier game against Senegal Under-20 women's team. Nigeria had a warm-up game yesterday, the Falconets, and they delivered quite a dominant performance against their opponents, thrashing their opponents in their pre-qualifier friendly, 15 goals to nothing. Yeah, I know you'll be actually, of course, shocked about that scoreline. Looks like a handball or even basketball competition, but it ended 15 massive goals to nothing. They had thrashed Oyo State women's side in that friendly game yesterday. Already we hear that the Senegalese Under-20 women's national team and the shores of a country that qualifier is set to take place later this coming Saturday. Fun when you thrash your opponent 15-0. I'm just wondering if it was me. Maybe at 10-0, I will no longer play it. I'll just tell the referee, come on, we have to end this game.
Well, it is why it is a friendly game, and when you look at the national team, though the Under-20 side of it playing a stats-based team, you would expect that because it can never match the national team quality for quality, so it's something to expect. But now I'm looking forward to the Senegal game because that's where it matters. You know, it's not going to be 15-0 again. Now you have to take your chances when you have them. So good preparatory game for Nigeria. Let's see if it pays off for them in that Senegal game.
But we're looking forward to the game slated for later on Saturday. We'll talk more about that in the coming days. But let's move away and talk about the Moroccan national team, where we hear that the Moroccan Football Association has confirmed they have made a decision to appeal about the sanctions, in the just concluded WAFCON game against Senegal. Yes, that's what they have said at the moment. We're still waiting forward to know whether or not the appeal will be successful. But at the moment, they have filed an appeal ahead of immediately after the sanctions meted out to them by the Confederation of African Football. That's what it is at the moment. But let's quickly talk about the WAFCON now, where we hear that the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations that is slated for the month of March may just, of course, suffer postponement at the moment because according to reports emanating from Morocco, the host country, they have communicated to CAF and have informed CAF of their decision and their inability to host the tournament next month. They are citing reasons of fixture congestion for their local league. That's the domestic football calendar. Morocco, we hear Morocco's top flight. Botola Pro League has already suffered multiple postponements as a result of major international competitions from the just concluded Africa Cup of Nations to the African Nations Championship CHAN to the Arab Cup. All of these actually had their league being halted with the scheduling pressure creating logistical and operational challenges. The Moroccan Federation has officially requested that CAF shift the tournament to a later date. Well, if you could actually recall last week, in the early part of this week, we already talked about South Africa also being looked at as alternative venue for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Now that the Moroccan FA said we may not be able to host this tournament at the specific date, it should be shifted to a later date. Will CAF consider taking the competition now to South Africa owing to all of these excuses that have been meted out by the Moroccan football authorities? Well, this is actually a sad one because there were actually speculations that we had some, of course, pressure by the fans of Morocco to stop hosting CAF competition, especially after we saw the chaotic moment at the African final. But here is what it is. CAF shifting it to a later date, or taking this particular competition to South Africa? Which is better?
Well, I think it has to be taken to South Africa because of a country we cannot keep Africa, cannot hold Africa ransom, because right now, looking at Morocco, they are unable to host this particular competition. And I think South Africa, if they're ready, we should just go there, because postponing it is just, for me, it's different, because you're now shifting it from a time. It's going to be affecting the next WAFCON as well, because now we've shifted a lot of competitions already. The AFCON that was slated for 2023 had to be played in 2024. We've been shifting a lot of things. The WAFCON now, I think it should not follow suit, because I don't like when things get postponed. That's why you need to have a plan B. And if South Africa is ready, I think we should just go to South Africa and play the WAFCON. No need to wait till 2027. You now be playing WAFCON 2026 and 2027. I think it affects the African football on a larger scale. So let's let Morocco, play their local league and all of that. Take the WAFCON to South Africa.
Well, the last time South Africa hosted the WAFCON, they went on to win it. Yes, can it be that same case for the Bayana this time around if they eventually host this year's WAFCON? We're looking forward to see. CAF hasn't responded to that particular letter sent by the Moroccan FA. And when they do, we'll also, of course, make some specific claims and also let you know as well. But let's quickly head straight now to Europe and look at, the English Carabao Cup. It was the semi-final second leg of the English Carabao Cup involving Chelsea and Arsenal, a London derby clash at the Emirates Stadium. It was West London side Chelsea, making a short trip to North London side, talk about Arsenal, to play that game. It looked like it was always going to be a cagey game until Kai Havertz, a former Chelsea player who scored the last time Chelsea lifted the UEFA Champions League. Yeah, the man was the difference between Chelsea and Arsenal, scoring a late goal to ensure that Arsenal progressed to the finals of the English Carabao Cup. 4-1 aggregate. It ended. Kai Havertz scored with a 90 plus 7 minutes of action. And with that result now, Mikel Arteta's Arsenal side have finally made it to a first major final in 6 years. Well, fun. I do not know whether they prioritize this particular, Carabao Cup, final, and it might just be their first silverware in a very long period of time. But here they are. I do not know what you made of the game just yesterday.
Well, I think it was a game, 50-50 game. Both sides were very, very cautious, especially with the approach to the game, especially Chelsea. Lined up in a 3-5-2 formation for the first time. We've seen Liam
so many actually complained that the man Liam Rosenior, approached the game with about 5 defenders.
For me, it doesn't matter. I think it was better for Chelsea because you want to shout out Arsenal. Arsenal has one of the best attacks.
They were actually trailing heading into that game, so they should have actually scored more.
What would have happened if they went out with a lot of attackers and then they conceded goals very early? Because for me, I think Chelsea were the better side in that particular game for up till maybe the 70th, 80th minute of that game, because they were playing quite well. I saw Marco Kurela get into positions that were very good for him. So I feel Chelsea were not really poor yesterday. I cannot really say Chelsea were the poorer side yesterday. It was a good game of football and the better side won. That was just it. You're playing at the Emirates. You've already lost at your home ground. They played like for like when it was a Stamford Bridge, with a lot of attackers and all of that. How did that end for them? They considered 3 goals. They had to come back with that to get it at 3-2 at a point. So when you're looking at the game against Arsenal at the Emirates, I understood why Liam Rosenior had to make those changes, because now you're talking about a good team as Arsenal. You're going away to them. You have to be very cautious against them. So for me, it was not a bad approach to the game at all. But Arsenal, first final in 6 years, definitely something to look out for. And I think Mikel Arteta can finally see a trophy within grasp. And just like we always say, the Carabao Cup is going to be played before the end of the season. Yeah. So that would help to calm the needs of most of the Arsenal fans who've not really seen a trophy in quite a long time. So good for them. Let's see if they can go all the way and win it. They will face the winner of Manchester City or Newcastle. So that's not an easy game either. So still going to be a tough game for them in the finals.
Well, of course, away from that, we also had a Spanish Copa del Rey clash involving Albacete and Barcelona. Well, Barcelona came out top in the quarterfinal fixture. Lamine Yamal and Ronald Araujo also scoring to ensure that Hansi Flick's boys progress to the semi-finals of the Spanish Copa del Rey. That's how it actually happened yesterday. Away from that, N'Golo Kante has finally joined Fenerbahce after, of course, a deal revival. It almost looks like the deal will actually collapse at some point, but the man has finally returned back to Europe. I do not know what you make of this now. He's 34 years of age. Yeah. he returns back to Europe, this time around in Turkey.
We always saw the man at the Euros. He was still very agile. I think he was one of France's best midfielder at that particular competition. So I don't think Saudi Arabia has done anything to him. At 34, he's still very good. He's still the N'Golo Kante we used to know. Maybe lost a little bit of pace, but I think he's still ready to go. Fenerbahce, not one of the big, not playing in one of the biggest leagues. We're talking about the Turkish league. So I think it's just about keeping himself in top gear. This is the World Cup year, and France would need bulk of their players to be playing at top clubs. That's why John-Philippe Mateta was trying to force the move from Crystal Palace. So I understand why N'Golo Kante is coming back to Europe just for the World Cup. That's what I think.
Well, of course, we're looking forward to what happens for the man N'Golo Kante. Will he make it to the France national team squad ahead of the World Cup later this year? We hear Jean-Philippe Mateta faces an uncertain future for his club side and even country, because at the moment the man is injured, and that's why AC Milan couldn't progress with that deal. Yes, after a series of medical checks, AC Milan had to pull out due to the fact that he was injured before even traveling to Italy. The man has 18 months left in his current contract. And of course, one of the big conversations is the fact that he was eyeing to make the France national team squad ahead of the World Cup. Now with injury also halting his move, how long will he stay sidelined and return back to competitive action is a very big question for him at this point. But just before we bounce, we hear Wales are in talks with England's World Cup opponents, Ghana, over a friendly in Cardiff. Well, Cardiff is actually in Wales, so we're looking forward to what happens in the coming days for some of these, African teams who are preparing for the World Cup. Sadly, Nigeria are not part of the World Cup conversation. Well, just before we bounce, Manchester City at 9 p.m. later today would face Newcastle United in the Carabao Cup semi-final, second leg, this time at the Etihad Stadium. Well, Manchester City already with a 2-0 cushion in the first leg at St. James Park. Can Pep Guardiola finish off the job in a very struggling season for him, get a silverware that could further motivate some of the young lads that arrived in the club side this season?
Well, I think without Maguire in this Manchester City team, I'd have been expecting Newcastle to give them a 12 start. But now, with Maguire, I think Manchester City...
We saw Tottenham Hotspur, of course, equalizing 2 goals in their last Premier League outing. Could it be that same case this time around for Newcastle?
I think Newcastle would give a very good game, but I don't see them winning the tie because they're already 2-0. So Newcastle have to score 2 without conceding. I don't see them scoring 2 without conceding against Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. It's going to be difficult for them, but they'll give a very good game. Remember, they themselves are not really good either. Their last game, they lost 4-1 to Liverpool. So when you look at that, and they're not really the best of sides. So I expect it to be a 50-50 game. Guardiola against Eddie Howe. Let's see who wins it.
Well, whoever wins here would, of course, make the finals and face Arsenal in the Carabao Cup finals that comes up later next month. But with that, we'll draw the curtains here. Thank you very much for being part of the show.
A pleasure as always.
We'll return tomorrow for more conversations in the exciting world of sports. Thank you very much for also being a part of it. Have fun and bye for now.